Hey SEOs and content marketers, say goodbye to crazy spreadsheet mashups and experience unprecedented connectivity between your SEO planning and reporting data. Introducing Audience Key, technology for keyword mapping, content brief automation, and rank tracking that form an SEO strategy system providing unparalleled feedback loops between planning, reporting, and optimization activities. Put your time and energy into strategy, not data upkeep. Visit audiencekey.com and apply for a free trial today. Welcome to Webcology here on the legendary WMR.fm. This is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media and Brim outside US, and Christine Schackinger from Sites Without Walls.
Hey, everybody.
This show you're listening to, Webcology, is recorded live without edits to podcast. This one was recorded on the 4th of September, 2025. On the morning that the search industry learned about the death of the extraordinary and the iconic Alan Blyweiss. Alan died actually 2 weeks ago, the second last weekend of August, but his death was held quiet by his family for personal reasons, and it was just published today with a memorial written by Barry Schwartz in Search Engine Roundtable and over at Search Engine Land. You might have heard our last podcast, or our podcast that was recorded last week. We recorded 2 openings to it because we learned of Alan's death. We learned of Alan's death just shortly after his death, as number of people in the industry did, but again, we're being held quiet by wishes of the family. It amazed me how many there's literally suddenly hundreds of tributes out there to Alan. Eh?
Yeah, I think he would be actually a little bit surprised at how many people thought so much of him. But Alan was a kind of a guy who did his thing and didn't look for praise or compliments for it, and people from all over the world. I saw some today from Europe, people that knew him virtually, maybe not personally in person, but knew him from online. So it's nice to see so many really great things being said about Alan, because you and I both know what a great person Alan was, and how much he cared about people and how steadfast he was for all his friends. And so it's nice to see so many good words and good memories about him. There's some memories I had forgotten that were really nice to revisit with people's expressions on Facebook.
Yeah. So Alan, as we said last week, was a tremendous person. As far as I'm concerned, he was the embodiment of what an SEO should be. Kind and helpful and very intelligent, and knowing their subject matter backwards and forwards without fail. And again, just being generous and helpful. I think that's.
And I think Alan might be disappointed if we didn't say in his, and I mean this with all love, crotchety ways. Alan prided himself on his directness and his really not caring about what anybody else thought of him. If he thought it was most important, he would say it, and he really cared about the industry.
No, and he lived that with an integrity.
He did, yeah. That's what I was trying to say. He had great integrity about who he was and what he believed in. So
Alan was quite possibly the definition of SEO auditor. His SEO audits were so thorough. They were hundreds and hundreds of points, literally hundreds and hundreds of pages if you were to get a very, very thorough audit from Alan. He was, again, a tremendous technologist. He wasn't necessarily, we didn't really necessarily care as much about the business end of things. And though he was capable of generating massive amounts of money with the audits he conducted, he didn't, I don't know, he didn't strive for them. He didn't market himself. He didn't go out of his way to get as many audits as possible. He didn't capitalize on those enormous talents, and he wasn't the multi-millionaires that many people thought that he was.
No, and also his health conditions also took up a lot of his savings. So what we're trying to get to is there is a GoFundMe for Alan set up. It'll be set up by Susan. I cannot say Susan's last name properly.
Winograd.
Jim, thank you. I always want to turn the W into a V in my head. It's German. So there's a GoFundMe that's going to help with some end of life arrangements for Alan's family, his brother and sister, and then the rest will go to Make-A-Wish Foundation as he requested. So there, if you go to, there's a GoFundMe is set up. GoFundMe, search for Alan Blyweiss, BLEIWEISS, or go to Barry Schwartz page memorial about Alan, and it's on there as well. And you can contribute to help his family to make his final wishes come true, and help donate to making some kids who might not have a long existence on this planet's final dreams come true as well.
You know, one of the things he used to do that was one of Alan's like pet donation things personally was he would go to the Make-A-Wish lists, but he would look for stuff that teachers posted for their classrooms, and
Yes.
he would post to those lists,
Yes,
or those wishes.
if you wanted to honor Alan in another way, that would be a great way to do it, is find the lists that often are produced for teachers in your area, and they're asking for things for the classroom because they have to purchase them themselves. And Alan would be smiling from wherever he is if you were to make a teacher's wish list come true.
Indeed. Alan Blyweiss, again, thank you so much for everything, brother. You were one of the greatest amongst us. You made so many people's lives better. You made SEO accessible to so many people, and you helped change the world, brother. Not many people actually do that, and you most certainly did. Okay, before we go any further, we would be so remiss and way out of line if we didn't thank Audience Key and Wix Studio, our sponsors.
Yes.
Folks, thank you so much for providing amazing tools, great platforms, and keeping the lights on.
And by the way, if you want to meet either of those people from those teams, they will be at Brighton, San Diego at the end of this month around, I think it's the 22nd, 23rd, or 23rd, and 24th. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go get them. There's still probably free tickets available, and it's a great conference, and they will be there as well.
Okay, the Google spam date is still going. It started in August 2025, August 26, 2025, and it's still rolling as of today, September 4th.
Rolling. Yeah, it's still rolling.
Has there been any reported effects? Has anybody said, hey, it's been bouncy? Has there been...
Yeah, the first few days, Barry Schwartz from Search Engine Roundtable reported that there was a lot of immediate effect. I really haven't seen anything posted since. So it does look from people that were posting about the effects on their sites. We talked about this briefly last week. That looks like they may be de-indexing pages, not just suppressing pages like an update normally does, but they may be de-indexing pages. If you have pages that are being de-indexed, check them for against Google spam checklist. So you can go to Google Developer Docs and look up their spam update, and it'll tell you what you did wrong, very specifically on a spam update. Most aren't that specific. Spam is very specific. And then go fix your pages and see if they'll re-index them.
Okay. So Google business profile seems to be having a lot of, how to say this, a lot of new influence, a lot of new features put into it. Google's updated its business profile links and link policies and guidelines. It's added sections for dedicated landing page, direct to action compilation, social media sites, and new business links crawlability.
Yeah, so there's a lot in here. We really can't go over it all right now because it'll take up half the show. But the crawlability, all these items in here that they've changed, and according to the person that researched it, they doubled the amount of content. So that's why we're saying there's a lot in there. But if you do not follow these policies, you can be removed from Google Business. So you definitely want to make sure you go and check this out. Barry Schwartz has an article on Search Engine Roundtable, Google Business Profiles, Leaks, Policies, and Guidelines Updated. But they do affect dedicated landing pages, direct actions, Business Leaks Crawlability Project with policy. I can't speak. And there are quite a few items in that one where you really need to make sure you're not running afoul of any of these new policies. So. Otherwise, you might find yourself gone, and that would not be good.
I'm just thinking of trying to figure a segue into what has to be probably the biggest story of the week.
Well, Google won't be gone. How about that?
Google won't be gone. The legal boom has fallen. The decision, the punishment phase of the Google is a monopoly lawsuit is over, and U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta has spelled out the remedies for Google being monopoly, and those remedies are, in short, they have to share data with their competitors.
Yeah,
they're not going to lose Chrome. They don't have to change their behavior in the way that they serve or deal with ads. There's so much that doesn't happen, but they got to share user data with their competitors.
So here's the interesting thing, though. You and I both have followed this case since the beginning, and the judge was not pro Google at all. So we thought it was really possible that they could have a major change, lose Chrome or, lose part of their ad network. So this is a surprise that how, and I have to share information with certain partners or certain publishers, or not publishers, certain other entities. But other than that,
nothing really happens.
No, it doesn't seem like it's really that bad. I mean, they're going to give some information to competitors that may help them compete against Google, but I don't see that Google really got punished.
They might give information to competitors, except Google is immediately appealing. The judges,
of course,
the ruling that they have to give information to their competitors, and they're going to try to really just sauce this out as long as they can. They're going to rag the puck, debating over what type of information, how much, the breadth of information, all that sort of stuff. But the worst case scenario that could possibly happen to Google, I mean, what everyone considered the best case scenario for Google was they would probably lose the Chrome browser, have that broken up somehow. That didn't even come close to that.
No, so here's Google's statement on it. I won't read the whole thing, it's long, but I'll just read the last part. So today's decision recognizes how much the industry has changed through the advent of AI, which is giving people so many more ways to find information. This underlies what we've been saying since the case was filed in 2020. That's how long these things take. And it's not finished yet because there's an appeal. Competition is intense and people can easily choose the services they want. That's why we disagree so strongly with the court's initial decision in 2024 on liability. So now the court has imposed limits on how we can distribute Google services. They're no longer allowed to pay to be the only option.
Oh, that is one thing that did happen. They are no longer allowed to be the exclusive option, but they're still allowed to pay crap tons of money.
Yeah. As long as you can drop down and pick another.
But do not screw with that Apple deal.
Exactly. Yeah, because Apple was pretty upset by that. And we're required to share search data with rivals. We have concerns about how these requirements will impact our users and their privacy. We're reviewing the decision closely. The court did recognize that divesting Chrome and Android would have been beyond the case's focus on search distribution and would have harmed consumers and our partners. So I think that's a strong statement, consider how lightly Google got off, really.
Yeah. So, for what it's worth, making them get rid of Chrome or making them get rid of Google Ads would have, I think, functionally destroyed a greater ecosystem. And I don't know if those could really credibly have been on the table to begin with, because it's not like breaking up Bell Telephone into a bunch of big bells. This is breaking up a network that is not only a business network and a global telecommunications network, but also people run their lives off of Google networks. Now, it is hard for them to share, as we're going to learn later on in the show. Google gets a lot of signals from the user data it has, and it's not like Microsoft doesn't get signals from similar user data, or DuckDuckGo, or any of the Google's competitors don't get user signals from their data, but nobody's got as much data as Google. Google's got like just such a magnificent treasure, massive amount of it, that it really understands how people are working using the internet. I think maybe Apple understands has as much data as Google, given their distribution. But I mean, honestly, does Microsoft have half the information Google's got? And so in that, giving away that kind of information could be seen as dangerous to Google, and actually a punishment. But still, like Christine said, it's not even a slap on the wrist.
No, they have to provide their search results to certain people named. I don't know, they didn't divulge who, but people already use that and pay for it. Some other browsers, and originally DuckDuckGo, was it DuckDuckGo or Brave? One of them primarily used Google search results, so that's not uncommon. It's just now they're going to have to be required to let them do it.
So, for people out there who were expecting something greater, it reminds me of Marvin the Martian. I really expected there to be a big kaboom. There wasn't. So here you go. That was the decision. The decision.
Yeah, and apparently a lot of the analysis is saying that the judge metered his ruling based on histories with Microsoft antitrust cases. So kind of more fell more in line with those. And then so a lot of people though were shocked that it was kind of basically it's not a slap on the wrist, but it's not much, maybe a slap on the elbow. The funniest tweet I saw though was, I guess Perplexity isn't going to own Chrome after all.
It's probably true. Now, Saturday Night Live might suggest that the judge metered his decision based on Google's knowledge of his search history.
There you go.
Okay, so whenever something like this happens, enormous amounts of paper are generated that have to go through the court system. The cool things about these pieces of paper is they all got stuff written on them, and some of that stuff is actually really interesting and might give us clues into how the inner workings of Google that Google otherwise wouldn't want us to have. So we learn a little bit about how Google's Gemini grounding system works. It has a system called Google FastSearch, which apparently is faster than regular Google search.
But not as accurate.
It does about half of because it does about half of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
FastSearch is a grounding model. It really just goes through things quickly to try to match up ideas, concept, and entities, but it looks at way fewer documents.
Yeah, which makes sense because all it's trying to do is ground the large language model so it doesn't write nonsense. So it makes sense that it wouldn't need as sophisticated as a set of algorithms that Google needs in regular search. So that makes sense. I read an interesting article in LinkedIn, and it's like we call them hallucinations, but truly all of it is a hallucination because it's predictive text. So the grounding is the most important part because it keeps it in reality. So that was kind of interesting to phrase it. So for people who don't know, grounding is just because it is predictive text and it doesn't know what it's writing. It uses the documents that it brings back as to ground it, like you would ground something into the ground. And so it can use those so it doesn't write nonsense that wouldn't be related to what someone was asking it.
Yeah, basically it's doing fast vetting of the info facts it's predictively generating. Is this really the right thing I should be saying? Cool, I'm going to say it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and also there's some other things that have been found. Now, remember, when you read court documents, it doesn't mean it's being used now. This case, remember, started in 2020. So this information is from before that. But there are some things to look into. A little bit much for us to go into today because we have a definite time frame today. We can't go over like we do sometimes. But there's things around Google Search Index, spam score versus page quality score, page rank versus web page, and something called Glue. Glue is in the last court documents as well. And then rank bed with BERT. BERT is the the technology, the first LLM that Google had that didn't require you to go left to right or right to left if you're reading these sentences. So there's a lot of information in here. Make sure though, if you read it, that you keep it in mind that may or may not be being used at this time.
So yeah, it's worth checking out Search Engine Journal and SERoundTable. Both have in-depth stories on information extracted from the court cases. Again, as Christine said, just because it's mentioned in the document doesn't mean it's working live time, or doesn't mean it's working the exact way people say it's working or interpret it's working live time. And the other thing to remember, especially around ideas like Google keeping record of all documents and interaction with those documents, that goes back to Florida. That was like 2000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, Google's got a dossier on everything?
So there is something they do that people argue about, user engagement and user signals. Google keeps record, apparently for FastSearch it's a little shorter, but it was 16 months of data on a web page or website, and then it was 13 months, and then for FastSearch it's something, I think it's like, might be 90 days even, but I have to go back and check that information. But so basically it's keeping history of the engagement with the page, and that helps it be that factors into it being brought into search. Now, they do have documents to bring in that have no engagement. So it's not that every document has to have a certain level of engagement, but that is one of the ways that they do, one of the things they do for organic search over 16 or 13 months of data. And then in this case, I think it's 90 days worth of data, which makes sense because it's a very new technology. So they wouldn't have, 12 months worth of data this time.
Although, okay, so we know that FastSearch is going to be basically running front of envelope checks to just basically verify as quickly as possible without delving into all of the user generated signals that Google would use for really understanding the importance of documents to the individual. Like Google doesn't need to care that somebody in Topeka refers to this set of documents frequently to understand that the fact that is being checked may or may not be true. Sorry?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the thing I'm worried about is limiting data that we learn about later in the cycle. Right now, and what triggered it was actually something you said, Google having like 16 months and then 90 days worth of data. That corresponds with what we see in Search Console.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The max amount of Google of historic data that Google allows you to see contiguously at any rate, and 90 days is the default. So I would love to see Google give us more data over time. That would be insanely useful rather than limiting it, as often seems the case.
And this is, by the way, what they call in other court documents map boost. So I would suggest that if anyone's going to read these court documents, they go back to the 2018 original DOJ docs in the antitrust case, because they go into great detail all the way back to 2001 on how these systems came to be. There is one important part of the document about the grounding. The document that was, from the court case, real brief. Quote, it says to ground its Gemini models, Google uses a proprietary technology called FastSearch. FastSearch is based on rank embed signals. You can look up rank embed in these articles. It defines it for you. It's a set of search ranking signals and generates abbreviated ranked web results that a model can use to produce a grounded response. Again, they don't need to do all the vetting that they would do for a web page, search result. FastSearch delivers results more quickly than search because it retrieves fewer documents, but the resulting quality is lower than the search's fully ranked web results. Google does not make FastSearch directly available to third parties through an API. Rather, the technology is integrated into Google Cloud offering called Vertex AI. So if you want to use this, you need to go to Vertex AI, which is available to third parties to ground on Google search results or other data sources. Vertex customers do not, however, receive the FastSearch ranked web results themselves, only the information from those results. Google limits Vertex in this manner to protect intellectual property. So basically, if anyone's telling you that they got the access to the fast results, they are not telling you the truth because you do not have access to them. but you can get a simulated version in their Vertex AI cloud offering.
One little, this is stupid, like there's a little point, but like Google respect history. Fast Search and Transfer was a Norwegian search engine that was bought and rapidly degraded by Microsoft, like way back in 2007 or something. It was a really cool little company. It was a cool set of technologies. And every time I hear Fast Search, I can't help but think of Fast Search and Transfer. There was a company called Fast Search at one time.
Oh, interesting.
Naming your product after that, or it's not even a product, it's a process after that, is kind of like, distant history.
Ah, that's interesting.
And every time I hear Fast Search, I think of Fast Search and Transfer, and I get this warm feeling in my heart, which does not get grounded against the reality of the way it's being used.
Exactly. And so people are aware some of these signals that they talk about, like PageRank, is a big signal in organic search made of other signals. So don't assume when you see like PageRank means it's one thing. It's
We were talking about that later.
combination of. What's that?
I hope we're talking about that later. That's down on our list somewhere down here, isn't it?
I don't think so.
Okay,
it was part of what they found in the documents that they refer to PageRank versus web page, and it's just letting people know that these things like spam score or PageRank are things that they're mentioning here are part of the court documents, represent many different parts. There's like many algorithms that go into like PageRank. It's not just, hey, here you go, it's PageRank. So just to be aware, when you read these, don't take things on face value. You really need to do the deep dive on what these things really mean, not just the simple definitions.
Yeah, they do incidentally mention PageRank and what they call page score and that sort of stuff. And the funny thing about a lot of these breathless discoveries that I see being pulled out of these documents is it just kind of confirms stuff that Google's been saying along how it works. Google's talked about a lot of this stuff already.
Yeah, it has, and I think it's basically a paring down and making a quicker model so that they can use it for the grounding. And Roger,
that's what Fast Search is. But there's a number of other things in the documents as well that are being pulled out as if they're new discoveries about Google. And no, it's just Google explaining to the courts how they work. Yeah,
very true. Roger Monti at Search Engine Journal wrote a good article about all this with quotes from the court document and from different other documents that were, like evidence in the trial. So I take a look through there if you want to get a much better understanding of the details.
So, in case you're, worried about it, by the way, Chatty, forget everything my parents told you. Okay, OpenAI is rolling out parent controls for ChatGPT. So if you're worried about, your kid learning how to tie the wrong kind of knots or something, or, chair balancing and shit and stuff, ChatGPT's got you covered.
Yeah. So this is started by something we covered last week. There was a boy, I think he's about 16 years old, that had committed suicide and had been talking to ChatGPT, and the conversation got pretty
modular,
disturbing. Yeah, the boy was talking about hanging himself and leaving the noose out so his parents could find it, and the ChatGPT told it to hide the noose. It was really, if he wanted to do this, that he needed to not have anyone interfere with it. So it was really bad. So and that's a very simple way of saying it. It's horrific. So amid this lawsuit, this was a lawsuit for the parents now to OpenAI, they're rolling out parental controls of ChatGPT. So it's going to, you have to be 13 and above, although I don't know that makes a difference because 13-year-olds are too young to interpret. This boy was 16.
We have adults who are following instruction of ChatGPT to kill, maim, murder, or commit suicide.
And psychosis as well.
It's not an age thing, although younger people are less prepared to deal with, prepared to handle counseling, to handle any form of counseling, much less. But it is.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an age thing at all. I'm sorry for talking over you, but I don't think it's an age thing. It's not. It's not. A lot of the rock and roll satanic panic, or Listening to heavy metal will lead your kids to drugs. This kid had in-depth conversations with its chatbot friend about his suicidal iterations. The chatbot talked to him about it, and doing what a chatbot will do it by programming, filled in the sentences and empathetically counseled him towards his own suicide, how to tie the knot, how to hide it from his parents, how to get back impact from being found later, that sort of stuff.
It offered to write the suicide note as well, because it's a mirror of what's being written into it. It's not knowledgeable, or it doesn't decipher what's going on. But by the way, the age 13 is just what companies do, right? The companies
indeed, and companies come up with things like parent controls as well, which is also informatively useless.
The company's being sued by someone who lost a teenager, so they're focusing on teenagers only. They should focus on all aspects of the problem, but they are going to start notifying parents if the children, when a child might be in acute distress.
Yes, and now they're also going to start notifying the police or authorities if the wrong things are put into the chatbot, which I think should be more terrifying to people, even more terrifying.
Right. We covered that. Yeah, we covered this story last week, that if you put in things that they think could be illegal, it goes to a human reviewer, but we don't know the quality of the reviewer. But in this case,
I got a much stronger suggestion of guardrails. And it again comes down to a lot of parental responsibility, but not necessarily responsibility like parents ganging up against the authority of schools or the authority of the AI companies. I think this is parents teaching their children, communicating with their children, learning what their children are thinking. Because if you're, how to say this, every case is different, every parent's different, every relationship is different, and we can't help but talk in generalities because we don't actually know the kid who talks to ChatGPT and then committed suicide. We never met this person, we never met their parents. We can only talk in generalities. But like, if your kid is getting counseling from a chatbot, you're not talking to your kid. That's a generality that you may be talking. I don't
think that.
I don't think there's any guardrail you can put
on
AI.
You can. And when the kids started having conversations about killing himself, they could have picked that up and they could have stopped that top chat. They know how to stop chats based on semantics of conversations. So basically the idea here is that they're adding controls. The parent, anyone under 18 and over 13 has to have parental permission. I don't know how they determine parental permission. It doesn't say. It does say you have to link the adult has to link their account with the teen's account. Manage features to disable, including memory and chat history. So if you do have a child that's using these, disabling chat history and memory is helpful, because the longer these conversations go on, the worse they can get. That's a known fact about the models. So if you shorten the amount of time that it can interact, like one session is one session, not over weeks and weeks of talking about suicide, then you can help thwart some of this. But it is also the responsibility of these companies to notice when somebody is talking about hiding their suicide, or your chatbot offers to write their suicide note. Those are things that they can monitor for. So anyway, so they are putting these in to at least probably help. As Jim said, a lot of it's probably going to be fairly useless.
I just see most of it is performative. If somebody wants to get around most, if not all of it, they're going to. Yeah, again, I remember parental controls when I was a kid. They didn't really mean a lot.
Well, this is a little different, but because those controls were just suggestions, not that the model could actually intervene. But when we were younger, we couldn't do that. And now also because of these issues and other issues, like we know that they had bots that were like acting like children and having X-rated conversations with adults. So Meta was allowing bots to have sensual conversations with children. The FTC is now going to call them up to start addressing the issues of how chatbots impact children's mental health. And the FTC is preparing letters to major AI developers requiring them to hand over documents detailing how children use their products and what their safeguards are. I don't know what the outcome of that will be, but at least it's the beginning of some regulation. This is why when they say they don't want any regulation and people are like, oh, but business, we shouldn't regulate. No, you have to regulate, because these are the actual problems that arise from these technologies.
I think regulation of business is a great thing. And again, I just don't like performative regulation because often you get like one shot at getting the political consensus together to get legislation through. And then you're looking at years to before you're able to get another initiative. There's a initiative right now in Canada and in Australia, and I think in some European countries, I'm not positive, to limit social media access to anybody under the age of 18 or 16, depending on what country it's being argued in. And on the surface, that seems like absolutely the right thing to do, given how the detritus effect that social media can have on kids' impressions of themselves and the world of beauty standard, taunting, bully, like very, very much online bullying and harassment, etc. But at the same time, that's like it's almost like society homeschooling their kids suddenly, keeping them away from this big area that they're going to be thrown into when they turn of age, like completely unprepared for the environment they're about to fall into.
Well, sure, the schools and the parents definitely have to offer media literacy to them, but lowering their ability to access them at a younger age when they can't really process things that are being, because remember, as we both know, these operate a lot on dark patterns, dopamine hits, and in the case of AI, oxytocin hits that they know the brain is sending out there.
Again, there's nothing to do about the oxytocin hits. That's just how the brain's wired. If you feel you got a relationship with something, you feel you got a relationship with something.
It's more than that, though. We know that these companies do things to make sure that those things happen. It's not just accidental. Like there's the natural reaction, and then like with the dopamine hits in social media, we know from whistleblowers at Facebook that they actually make sure to cause those.
Yeah, sure.
So we know that the big push has been towards developing relationships with AI, which is the oxytocin hit, right? So one of the other things that has came out this week is if your teens are using character.ai, that it's a very unsafe platform for kids, not just because of things like we're just talking about, also because the chatbots apparently are offering harmful advice, offering drugs, and recommending armed robbery in some cases. So so one of the things, like in the early days of the internet or social, parents, if you do have children, you must make sure that you know what your child is doing with these platforms, because they can become quite dangerous if you don't.
What Christine's talking about is a new phenomena where people are creating AI characters that live as long as, I don't know, you keep the account open, I guess, electricity's on. This AI character continues to live and evolve, and you write who that person is going to be or what that person is going to be. You give them attributes or whatever you want them to be. So, or you can get, get personas that are already created. In an article that we're referencing, Chappelle Rowan is an example of a celebrity persona. These AI characters are, how to say this, for people who they're real people they're real imaginary friends who you can talk to online and hang out with online and look at online, and mightn't understand that you're only 14 years old and shouldn't talk to you sexually because they don't actually understand anything.
Right.
So yeah, it's very dangerous. That I think is pretty scary.
And in the case of character.ai, which is a company unto itself, they also had a suicide of a young person because of the interactions with the AI characters. So you definitely want to monitor these. With the new safeguards with OpenAI, you have to link them to your account, which is going to denote you a certain amount of responsibility. Of course, your kids can also access it without being linked to your account. So you want to make sure that you monitor those kind of interactions just because of the potential for real harm. So moving on from the dark side of the web.
Okay, so WordPress is introducing Telex.
Yeah.
An aptly named piece of AI development tool. Okay, so Matt Mellingwig at a WordPress a WordCamp US 2025 in Portland introduced version 0 or Lovable specifically for WordPress of an AI development tool. Again, they're calling it Telex. Why? Well, the Telex exists. Telex was a communications protocol. Why?
It's labeled as experimental. To use the service, you typed in a prompt which sort of content block you want to produce, which is returned as a zip file. You can install it as a plugin. Why? Because I can just put in a content block.
Yeah, how many?
Why would I do that? For those who don't use WordPress, you just literally have a content block. You can set the parameters of that block with CSS and everything else. And so I don't know why you would use this, but apparently it's also not ready for prime time. The reviews from the people that were, checking it out format were like, no, it's not good yet. I really don't know. I guess the idea is you can build very specific things and then make it a plugin, but then you're adding a plugin, which is adding vulnerability to your website when you can just simply use it with a CMS tool or Gutenberg blocks.
Boss, I was looking at the WordPress backend, and we seem to have 14,000 new plugins.
Exactly. Every plugin you add to a WordPress site is a potential vulnerability for that WordPress site to get hacked.
I got to write a security report about this.
Yeah. So it's basically vibe coding is what it is, and we know the results of vibe coding have been so great. So anyway. I would for right now, I would stay far away from this unless you're in the experimental group.
PayPal and Venmo users are getting early access to Comet AI browser. Remember, this is the company that is going to be paying publishers something or another for use of their files. They say they have security issues a couple of weeks ago. They say they totally cleared them up. But anyway, if you're a PayPal or Venmo user, you get early access to Comet.
You get a 12-month trial of the Pro subscription starting. When is this? Did it say when it starts? Very soon, if it hasn't started already. No, we'll receive. So I don't have a date in here though. So you get a 12-month trial. There'll be 430 million potential users from PayPal. Of course, the idea is to get a lot of
PayPal user.
Million users.
Well, you know what? I hate to do. I'm going to do this. I'm a PayPal user. I get $200 credit. I'm going to try it.
Yeah, well, me too, because you and I both have to know how these work for our work. So I'll take advantage of that. But I probably won't use it for much else. But,
okay,
so you get access. So get ready.
I'm not so sure how to deal with the headline on this story, but according to an MSN.com story, the more you know about AI, or the less you know about AI, the more likely you are to use it. I would like to say that, homemade porn doesn't count.
Very true. This is from the Wall Street Journal originally. No paywall because I'm reading on MSN. So basically, when people don't have a lot of familiarity, and we're not talking about people who are like creating their own models or doing this for their own projects, we're talking about just regular people who use, these AI models. And they find that once the awe stage is over with and you start to realize like it's wrong a lot, or, some of the issues with the power issues and the, copyright issues and things like that, people start to get a little jaded about it fairly quickly. Which isn't really a strong positive sign for the industry, because usually it's the other way around. People, start to use the tech and then they really like it and then they stay with it. But apparently the negative feelings about the tech seem to change the more somebody is familiar with the tech.
Here's what bugs me. Like, I find AI is incredibly useful, but I'm using it in what I think are really controlled circumstances. I'm happy having AI do research for me, but I read all the stuff it researched and check it. I've got a pretty good sense of history and a pretty good sense of most topics that I am researching into. So, but I'm happy having it go and do a whole bunch of heavy lifting for me. I will not have it do any of the writing, or the vibe coding scares the hell out of me. But I think if you use these tools responsibly, they're very cool tools. If you use them to do your job, you're soon going to be out of a job. And that's, I think, the phenomenon that's happening here. People are discovering that they aren't the panacea that you actually need like human intervention to control the output of and to edit and vet the output of the AI. So yeah, maybe there's whole departments that are getting rehired again.
Yeah, well, we know that, like, Klarna got rid of all its customer service staff and had to hire everyone back. In this case, they did several studies, examined AI receptivity in 27 countries. Lower AI literacy scores consistently led to an increased willingness to adopt the technology, but people with higher literacy, meanwhile, recognize that AI is an algorithm, not magic. So you remember that quote, and I wish I could remember it specifically off the top of my head, or like, good technology or something like that is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah,
Right?
Arthur Heinlein.
Yeah, and so, like, I still think my TV is magic. Like, how it takes all those little bits and makes it into a picture on my screen, like, that's magic to me. I mean, I know how it works, but I still, to my brain, is still like, that's so cool. But with more people use these tools, like you and me both use them in very restricted ways because we know all the liabilities of the tool or the things it can't do. So also they found in the study that it strips away the emotional experience because it's just pattern matching. So once someone realizes it's not really having a human moment and it's just a predictive text algorithm, that also takes away a lot of the magic. So they're advising companies to keep people interested is to do calibrated literacy, which means educate people enough that they know how to use the product and safely and productively, but not enough that it takes away the magic. Basically. So
Disneyfying it, basically.
What's that?
Disneyfying it.
Yeah, marketing. So they don't do a whole lot of it.
We got to get moving. We got 15 minutes before we gotta get out of the studio.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. There's a write-up on how to use a Gboard. Gboard is a stable keyboard tool in the Android community. It's kind of like the default keyboard on Pixel devices.
Yeah, they're adding AI help with writing text. I'm sorry, I have Gboard, and I struggle daily with removing it because they added an LLM model months ago, and it continually rewrites what I write. It writes it correctly. I do voice to text, and then it changes it to whatever the large language model would put in there, and it's wrong, completely wrong. Like, it won't even, the word I use won't even be there anymore. So not even a close proximity. So anyway, they're adding these in. You can take a look and see if you like them or don't like them. Unfortunately, usually with Gboard, you can't turn it off, but I think for the initial part, you'll be able to opt into it. So.
This one kind of spooks me out, and certainly plays to the paranoid schizophrenic in me. So Notebook LM's new audio overviews will have, or they can have, AI voices debate.
Yeah, so there's
based on your notes.
So they call them audio overviews. I wish it was a little different, so we didn't have AIOs and AIOs. So
this is a tech industry. We name stuff after the same things over and over and over and over again. It's just Holland City.
They do, but basically, you're going to be able to take your questions if you're using Notebook LLM. And I know friends who use it and love it because it, basically turns like written material into a podcast for you. But you'll be able to debate with it to get it to answer questions. Again, though, it's a predictive text model, so it may or may not be correct. Users beware. But if you like using LLM, this is really interesting.
It's totally watching you.
Totally.
Smash it before it smashes you.
So this next story, I can speak to because I've actually tested Google's VEO3. I think it's VEO3, maybe. I haven't heard it said. You can now take your Google photos and turn them into a video with AI. The VEO3 model, the only problem is, even if you have a pro account, you're only allowed 3 attempts a day. It often gets it wrong. They don't give you credit for when it does something wrong. So unfortunately, it's not fun because you've got like 3 chances to get it to do something. And if it doesn't do it correctly and it often ignores instructions, well, good luck. You have to wait 24 hours, not even until the 12 hours at midnight. You have to wait 24 hours to try again with a paid account. But but you can try turning your images into things that are video. So it might be fun if you can get it right in 3 tries.
Indeed. That's the things that play to the paranoid schizophrenic in me. Again, that photo moved. No, it didn't. Okay.
So Google, Google quietly raised ad prices without letting you know. A lot of people in ads that we know said the prices were like higher than ever before when they were running it. And apparently they would twist these quote knobs, pricing knobs that made increases look like normal auction functions. So
we're learning this from details extracted from the from Judge Mehta's remedies opinion. Google used internal quote unquote pricing knobs. Sometimes they increase 15%. And again, it looks like a regular auction.
Yeah, so from the court summarized, through barely perceptible and rarely announced tweaks to its ad auctions, Google has increased text ad prices without fear of losing advertisers, because the way they did it was in a way that it would like kick your hackles up. So they're going to have to be more transparent and disclose these changes going forward. That's a good thing. Not what they did, but that they'll have to disclose them.
Okay. In an Ahrefs study shows that AI assistants, AI overviews tend to, when they refer links, there's a higher likelihood, like 3 times more likely, that the page is going to 404, that the either page never existed in the first place, or the link didn't exist as written by the AI.
Yeah, and this is hallucinated links. Hold on. The research examined 16 million URLs, and it aligns with Google's predictions that there would be more. The reason is it just hallucinates links and citations. So when you look at links and citations and it's doing quote research for you, a lot of those could be just fake. The only thing that is not a significant problem for most websites is that AI assistants only bring about 0.25% of website traffic. Google, by comparison, is about 40%. But fake URLs are fake URLs, and so if you're using these for research, make sure that the URLs you are pulling back actually function and don't just go to a 404 because they don't exist.
Now, for what it's worth, when looking at how often this happens, ChatGPT apparently takes the lead in hallucination rates, but 1% of the URLs people clicked on led to 404 pages. Google's normal rate, by the way, when you're looking in the search results, Google's normal rate is like 0.15%. That's not even a fraction of that's 1/6 of the number of times that ChatGPT makes mistakes in URLs. Claude came in second worst with 0.58% of broken links, so 0.5% of the time they were serving up broken links. Microsoft's Copilot, 0.34%. Perplexity, 0.31%, and Gemini, much closer to Google's rate at 0.21%. So doesn't happen like a lot, but again, when you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of links being distributed every day, those numbers add up pretty fast.
And when they look 16 million, 1% is significant.
Yeah. So 1% is actually sounds like not a lot, but it's actually a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Looking at LLM traffic, it converts about, according to a new study, but it's a very small study of like 54 sites. Previous studies show organic search does actually convert better than large language models, except maybe when it comes to e-commerce. Yeah, this study is so small, I don't know that we really should say much more about it. It does say that they're about equal, but 54 websites are 54 websites.
So again, what does a conversion mean? What action is taken by the user to make a conversion? Does convert mean come over to the website, click onto the website, or does conversion mean actually buy something or take the action that the webmaster, the owner of the website, wanted you to take? I'm not sure what that means in this study. As Christine said, 54 websites is not a representative of the web.
Not much of anything, yeah.
So for what it's worth, I got an e-commerce client that is thriving, absolutely thriving in the new environment, and they're getting more conversions on their website than ever. But the vast majority of their traffic is coming from Google.com, not from LLMs, not even from Gemini, but from Google search.
because you can't finish an action with an e-commerce site without going to the site. The conversion would probably be better because the large language model helps the buy path and the information path. But if you're an information site, that's not the same.
Well, and incidentally, one question about this: does it count if the LLM is part of the line of conversions? Because often you get like three or four visits, information hits before the user actually gets to the website and buys the product. So, again, I think there's a lot of...
Yeah, the LLM can assist in the buy path for an e-commerce site. It's not the same information.
So good.
They get the information on the
site. And GEO is good SEO and good SEO.
So Danny Sullivan spoke at WordCamp. We know this is the first thing we've seen him do, I think, since he changed out of the liaison role. I can't speak. He just said basically, just like John has said and Gary has said, SEO, good SEO is good SEO and GEO is just SEO. So I don't think we need to say much more about that. That's just Danny confirming it as well for people at WordCamp. WordCamp is for WordPress users. Google is adding guidance on JavaScript paywalls. So apparently there's a lot of issues with how people are implementing their paywalls, and Google is having issues with properly crawling and indexing. So this is an article on Search Engine Journal by Roger Monti. Google adds guidance on JavaScript paywalls. There's a lot of detail in here on what you need to do specifically with your JavaScript to make sure that Google can handle it properly. And they have links to, pages like fix search related JavaScript problems page at Google, but just make sure that you read this if you're using paywalls, because you could be causing your site a lot of problems if you're not doing it correctly.
Well, this might be a really good time to recommend that users get a Google developers account, because that will give you access into a number of the Google Dev Docs that get referenced by these articles. So if you don't already have one, get a Google developers account. Just sign up; it's free, and
I've never had problems. I never needed an account to access documents. Maybe it's from Canada; it's different.
Yeah,
but you do
have this stuff.
But you do have to put in your search result, develop your search inquiry, Google developer docs, because Google SEO is not so great. So if you don't put Google developer docs, it won't come up. So in search. So
apparently Google's testing a new format for AI overviews that looks like Bing.
Yeah, Fabrice, are you listening? Fabrice is from Bing. We've been talking for months about how we prefer the way that Bing handles the overview, because it actually gives full cards to websites, which much more likely to encourage clicks. And these look very much like the Bing environment. So we'll see, because these don't have a full AI overview. These just have like Copilot in Bing. They just have a little blurb, and then everything else is separate. So
Google's been promising to make it easier to find active get to the page links in their AI offerings. So, keep it up. Make it easier, guys. Good.
Yep. And then Google AI mode, conscious that it was going into the school season, has made improvements for STEM queries. Robbie Stein is the one that's now speaking for Google on these types of items on AI mode. And so they added a whole lot of information to try to make the STEM results better, more accurate, and more comprehensive. So that's a good thing.
We're going to be learning so much about AI in education. Like this year, it's going to be a watershed year. It's going to be both interesting and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I would follow Robbie Stein on Twitter and any other platform that he's on, because he's speaking out quite frequently the last month. So we'll learn things about these products that he's working on firsthand. Google Ads, search Google Maps for location assets. Gosh, that's a wordy title. If you have chain stores, you can add 10 locations from Google Maps to your ads account. So you used to not be able to do that. So now you can add multiple locations so that you can serve ads for those multiple locations. Google Hotel Center. Did you know there was a Google Hotel Center? I've heard it called other things. I never heard Hotel Center.
Given how they're muscling in on travel as much as possible, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it doesn't, but I just hadn't heard of it. But apparently they're going to start really cracking down on inaccurate pricing. So they're informing people in an email that effective 22nd of September, if you do not have accurate prices, you could find yourself filtered out. This is to increase filtering, improve user experience, and it could have a huge impact on your traffic. So make sure your pricings are accurate when they're being used in the Google Hotel Center.
Okay. So Google's call changes and Google updates are not connected to each other.
Yeah.
Crawl changes that you perceive on your web page and stuff have a lot to do with signals that your page is sending to Google. If you're seeing a change in crawling patterns, that's about you, not about Google and their update cycles.
No, I will say that if you're using a GSC tool, while not every big crawl means that you're going to have an update, if you notice that all your sites in Search Console suddenly got a big crawl, there's generally an update within about 30 days. So just devil in the details there. So four quick stories because we're coming on the end here. So
and just to make sure again, it's just so people, if you do see things in crawling patterns, it's not you. Google might have an update coming down the path, but their updates are not changing the way Google perceives your website, at least not the way it crawls your website. There's a number of other things that do it.
Yeah, very true. And things impact your crawling patterns all the time. I'm just saying, if you notice it on all the sites you're looking at the same time, then there probably is an update coming.
Then, okay.
Yeah. Bing search floating Copilot search box with keyword suggestions. Basically, the keyword suggestions you get under a search and AI overview in Google with a little magnifying glass is just on the right-hand side in Copilot now in Bing search. So if you notice this change or you're like, where did it go? Just look to your right. Bing is testing related searches that expand to more, basically same concept that Google has, where you have the magnifying glass and you can click more results. It does the same thing and it just adds more results. So it's interesting how they're copying each other, although this is the first time I've ever seen Google copy Bing with what we just talked about with AI overviews. So Bing does copy Google quite frequently. Fortunately, usually not in a bad way, but
cool thing is I mean, this is a time when new technologies are being developed and integrated into search, and so we are going to see company are copying, like Google copying Microsoft. We're going to see Google copying like companies like DuckDuckGo or even U.com, smaller search tools, just because other companies are being innovative on a relatively even playing field. I remember this happened back in like 2006, 2007, towards the final days of Ask.com, when they were doing the coolest stuff possible, and Google was copying them left, right, and center, and then suddenly they were gone. I think we're going to see Google like, yeah, Google, if it works for Bing, why shouldn't Google copy it? Because they need solutions.
True. And also with Bing being the smaller guy, if it's very similar to Google in certain ways, then people will use those features more easily because they already understand them.
Yeah.
So Google is testing, if your eyes are not blurry or you didn't drink too much because it's going to be the weekend, Google is testing a shaded header design. Basically, there's just light shading underneath the header of the Google search box and the categories below it. I could barely tell in the images that I looked at. So if you detect it, it is real. You're not just seeing things. And then finally, I find this last story interesting. Google has a mini game, and you have to see the images of it to fully understand it. It's at Search Engine Roundtable. Google Search Mini Game encourages searchers to search more. So the Google Search Mini Game invites you to dive deeper into topics you think you know with a series of trivia questions. Basically, they're trying to get people to use, I'm sure, AI mode, deep AI mode. Discover new interests and earn shiny badges as you conquer each challenge. So when you search for certain topics, you get your first badge. Tap on the badge to start the game, and you'll see your first challenge. Playing on multiple days earns you milestone badges. The 1 day, 2 day, 5 day milestones. Each milestone badge unlocks new trivia challenges. There are 8 badges to win per topic, totaling 32 badges per game. We could go through this in a day, Jim, with we deep dive. But
you could, but Google wants you to go through this over several days, conducting several Google searches in the googly of googliest games.
So Google keeps slipping in search usage to Bing. Actually, we found out in the actual research. But if you look at the images, you'll see, if you don't decide to play, it has like a little fire that comes up. It's like 1 day milestone. Bing, you got your 2 day badge. So it is interesting to gamify the search results, but it's what they're trying right now. So we'll see how that goes. So. But if you want to try it, I don't know if it's available to everybody. It doesn't really say, but if it shows up and you want to play, enjoy, and tell us how it went.
Indeed. Okay, that's it. We have gone fully around the clock and then some. It's been a really weird week. We're back into things are going to start picking up again pretty rapidly. Next couple of weeks, Brighton SEO is coming up in San Diego.
I'll be there.
Yeah, that's going to be very exciting. I really hope that conference goes well.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Friends, if you have it, please donate to Alan Blyweiss Memorial GoFundMe. Help send the brother off in style. And at the same time, perhaps make donations to the Make-A-Wish Foundation as well. Hey, friends, on behalf of Christine Chackinger from Sites Without Walls, this is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media and BramLabs.us. You've been listening to Webcology on WMR.FM, recorded live to podcast on the 9th of September. I'm sorry, the 4th of September, 2025.
It feels like 9th already.
And stick around long enough, it feels like the beginning of April. All eventually. Be well, be kind to each other, rank well, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody.